Ever feel like you're trying to predict the unpredictable when it comes to your investments? Like
Yeah,
you're on this roller coaster
right.
and you're just waiting for that next sudden drop.
Hmm.
It's enough to make you want to bury your money in the backyard, right?
Almost.
But what if I told you there's a way to take back some of that control?
Okay,
A smarter way to navigate the ups and downs of the market.
I'm listening.
That's what we're diving into today.
Okay.
We're talking about this strategy regime switching.
Mm.
And for this deep dive, we're taking a look at the China Universal Fund of Funds. They're using this really interesting approach.
And you know what's so intriguing about this model? It just makes sense. It recognizes that market conditions, they change constantly.
Exactly.
What works in one economic climate might be a terrible idea in another.
Yeah.
So it's not about some crystal ball
Right.
trying to predict the future.
Right.
It's about having a system that adapts and shifts gears when things change.
It's like having a car, right, that automatically shifts gears for you based on the terrain.
I like that. A smart car for your investments.
Exactly. So you're not stuck in high gear
Yeah.
when the road gets bumpy.
Precisely.
So how does this regime switching actually work? What are the nuts and bolts of it?
Well, it all comes down to keeping an eye on the right signals.
Okay.
This model uses three main indicators,
Okay.
and these are all about real-world economic data,
Gotcha.
not just some Wall Street jargon.
Love it.
The first one, this is pretty clever, it's called the SAM rule.
The SAM roll.
The SAM rule. And you know how sometimes you can kind of feel a recession coming on?
Yeah.
Like a couple of businesses shut down in your town, then you hear about layoffs on the news, and like, uh-oh.
Everyone's getting nervous.
Exactly. Everyone's a little nervous. Well, the SAM rule picks up on that shift. It looks at when the unemployment rate jumps by a specific percentage.
So it's not just a feeling.
No.
There's actual data behind it.
Real data, and historically, when this jump happens, it's often a sign, a red flag,
Interesting.
that a recession might be around the corner.
Okay, so red flag number 1, SAM roll. What is red flag number 2?
Red flag number 2 is my personal favorite. It's called the VIX.
The VIX.
You might have heard it called the market's fear gauge.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because it taps into, really, the emotions, the psychology of the market.
So it's not just numbers, it's feelings.
It's like, imagine a flock of birds, right?
Mhm.
They're all perched peacefully. Suddenly, something spooks them, and boom, they all take flight at once.
Everyone's freaking out.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's what the VIX measures. How much volatility, how much fear and uncertainty there is in the market at any given time.
Wow.
So when the VIX spikes up, watch out. It usually means there's choppy water ahead.
So we've got the SAM rule, which is looking at unemployment. We've got the VIX, which is like the mood of the market.
Right.
What's our third indicator?
The third one is all about getting an overall temperature check
Okay.
of the economy. This is where the CFNAI comes in.
CFNAI. All right, that sounds a little intimidating.
It sounds like a mouthful, but it's really pretty simple. Is the economy running hot? Is it starting to cool down? Or is there a fever coming on?
Gotcha. So it's like taking its temperature.
Exactly. And it looks at all sorts of data,
Mhm.
from manufacturing to employment to consumer spending to get that big picture.
So it's comprehensive.
Exactly. It's not just relying on one single factor.
This is fascinating. So we have our 3 indicators, and they're all painting this picture of what's happening in the market.
Right.
So what happens next?
Well, here's where the switching in regime switching really comes into play.
Okay, let's switch.
So when any one of these indicators, just one, hits a certain threshold, the model says, time to play it safe.
Time to play it safe.
And it shifts the portfolio, get this, 100% into bonds
Whoa, 100% into bonds. So you're taking your money out of stocks
for a period of time, yeah.
and putting it into these, safer investments?
Right. Because during those times of economic turmoil, we were talking about a potential recession, remember?
Right.
Bonds, especially those high-quality government bonds, become a safe haven. They're like that sturdy shelter when the storm hits.
They just kind of weather the storm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They tend to be much less volatile than stocks. And that stability, it helps you protect what you've earned. You're not losing sleep every night worrying about your portfolio.
Okay, that makes sense. So we're playing it safe, but we can't stay in that bunker forever, right? We don't want to miss out when the good times return.
You're reading my mind. This model isn't just about defense.
Okay.
It's also about knowing when to step back onto the field. And the rule for that is really interesting. To start taking on more risk again, that VIX, our fear gauge, it has to chill out. It needs to stay below a certain level, and not just for a day or two.
Yeah,
We're talking 30 consecutive days of calm. It's like making sure the coast is clear before you go back out.
I like that. So you're not jumping the gun.
Exactly. It's about seeing a genuine return to calmer waters.
This has been super interesting to break down.
Yeah.
But I'm sure our listeners are thinking, okay, that's cool for this fund in China, but what does it mean for me?
That's the key, right? It's not about blindly copying what someone else is doing.
Right.
It's about recognizing the power of this approach, this idea of having a system
Yes.
that takes some of the emotion out of it. Because we all know when we're scared or excited, we don't always make the best decisions, right?
Especially with money.
Oh, especially with money. Remember that time you panicked and sold all your stocks at the absolute bottom?
Don't remind me.
We've all been there. This kind of approach, this discipline, it can help you avoid those costly mistakes.
Yeah. It's like having that system, those rules in place. It just takes some of the pressure off, right?
Exactly. And it helps you achieve that balance.
Yeah.
That balance between mitigating your downside risk, protecting what you've worked so hard for, but also not being so afraid that you miss out on the growth opportunities when things are good.
It's not about being out of the market. It's about being smart about it.
Precisely.
All right. So to wrap things up here, I want to leave our listeners with something to chew on.
Okay.
Would this kind of approach, this regime switching, this ability to adapt to the market's mood swings, would it bring you, the listener, a little more peace of mind?
That's the goal. Right.
Even if it means maybe slightly lower gains during those crazy bull markets where everything seems to be going up.
It's a trade-off.
It's a trade-off. And it's really about your individual risk tolerance, what you're comfortable with, but it's something to think about. That's it for today's deep dive.
Fascinating stuff.
If any of this piqued your interest, and I have a feeling it did, don't just take our word for it. Go out there, do some research on these indicators,
The SAM rule,
the VIX,
the CFNAI.
see what you think. Knowledge is power. Until next time, happy investing.
It's a smarter investment.